The Universal Declaration of Human Rights was established in 1948 by the United Nations. This means that all the countries in the world accepted to write on a paper which are our basic fundamental rights. How many rights have we got? In the Universal Declaration, there are 30 rights, and if you're interested in getting to know them, I invite you to go to the internet and visit a wonderful website called Youth for Human Rights, or in Spanish, Juventud por los Derechos Humanos, in which you will find 30 wonderful videos explaining all of your individual rights. Now, human rights have very special characteristics that you should know. They are universal, imprescriptible, and inalienable. They are universal because they apply to everybody, regardless of our differences. They are imprescriptible because they never expire, no matter how old you are or what you do. And they are inalienable because nobody can take them away from you or ignore you, and because you cannot give them away. You cannot say you don't want your rights because they intrinsically belong to you. Now, why do we have rights? That is a difficult philosophical question about the foundations of rights. There are different theories to explain this. One of them is the conventionalist theory. According to conventionalists, we have rights because we decided to do that. This means that rights come from an agreement. So, when people decided to write our articles in a paper, that's why we have rights. It's sort of a pact or an agreement made by people. This is, for example, the theory that sophists defended. They, as you know, were also relativists. They thought different countries and different times have different norms and rules. So human rights for them would be only the result of an agreement. This means that if we have the way to find a different agreement, our rights could change. According to the conventionalist theory, we could change our rights if we agree to modify them in the future. Now, there is a different theory, an opposed interpretation of human rights, which is called the theory of natural law. According to the natural law theory, rights are in our human nature. It means that they belong to everybody, everywhere, no matter where or when you live. So, human rights are natural. They are part of our way of being. They form our human essence, and we cannot change them because they are in the nature of things. John Locke, for example, who was a philosopher who lived in the 17th century, defended the theory of natural law. For him, the right to freedom, life, and private property are basic rights that belong to us by nature. There is a very important thing that you should know about human rights. They are not all equal. They can be classified. Actually, they can be classified in two different ways. So we'll go step by step. The first classification of human rights divides them according to which value they are trying to protect. Civil rights protect our freedom. Civil rights are the things that nobody can do to you, because if they do that to you, you're not free. No one can do these things, not even the government, not even the state, not even the police. Some basic civil rights are the right to life, meaning that nobody can kill you, the right not to be tortured or not to be sent to prison without a fair reason, the right to a fair trial, the right not to be tortured, the right to free expression or to free thought. A second group of rights is the political rights. Political rights protect our participation in society. For example, voting, the right to vote, or the right to participate in a demonstration in a public assembly are examples of political rights. The third type of rights are social and economic rights. Socioeconomic rights protect our equality because these are things that the state must give you for free. For example, education or health protection or social security, including help for unemployed people that lost their jobs. All these things must be given to the people by the government for free, because if not, we are not equal. Think what would happen if you had to pay in order to go to school. Only rich people would have the opportunity to have an education, and that would break equality in society. And the fourth and last group of rights is the solidarity group. Solidarity rights are collective rights that apply to peoples, not to individuals. And one of them, for example, is the right to live in a peaceful world, the right to improve the situation of poor countries, the right to development, so that all societies in the world can share a common welfare. But as I told you before, there is another way to classify human rights, according to when they were established and acknowledged by the legislation. According to this classification, human rights are divided in generations. First generation of human rights, which includes civil and political rights, are the first rights that were included in the law. These rights were approved in the 18th century after the American and French revolutions. You know, the revolutionaries decided that people had to stop being subjects and they had to begin being citizens. This meant that there was the necessity to establish limits to what the government could do to people, those are civil rights, and that we should grant everybody's participation in society, and those are political rights. The second generation was established in the 19th and 20th century, and it includes social and economic rights. It took time to pass these rights in the legislation because, as you know, these rights imply money. The government has to pay to ensure that everybody has a free education or free health protection. So it was hard to force the government to pass these rights. The third generation of human rights includes solidarity rights, like the right to peace or the right to development of poor countries, and they were only approved at the end of the 20th century. Now, you might think if there are more rights than these 30 human rights included in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Well, some people think there are, and for example, they are planning to develop a fourth generation of human rights, including new things such as, for example, the right to access the internet, which is basic in a modern world like our current world.